Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Around the Table GTA. I had an episode similar to this one a couple of years ago, but this year I'm going to be a little bit more focused on this one, I guess. I think I've had time to process to an extent so I could keep it going. So this episode is going to be about unexpected loss, right? If you heard the last episode, the Filler Buster 2, check it out if you haven't. If not, I just dived into it a little bit recently. I lost my aunt. It happened this weekend and it was very unexpected. I've been helping people through random loss as well. So it was strangely coincidental where I talked to a couple of people about loss and then it affected me a little bit after. And loss is a thing that we all process differently. Like for me, especially with this news, at first I was just kind of like, oh, okay, it happened. But as I stopped and I thought about it, I got a little bit more and more upset, especially when more details came out. And loss is a thing that everybody processes differently, especially unexpected loss. Funny enough, while I was trying to communicate with family, Facebook, Meta, Instagram, whatever you want to call it, I don't know what they're going to call it in the future, all of that went offline, right? So I thought I got hacked. I was changing my passwords on different platforms because that also was an unexpected loss. The only way that I could really communicate with that side of the family is through Facebook and sometimes WhatsApp. And all of the stuff related to that put me in a little bit of a frenzy, especially at a loss. And that's something that we need to be careful of, especially when we lose people or lose things. Our mind goes into a panic and it can leave us vulnerable in the worst type of ways. But at the same time, it should be a reminder that we do have one life, right? And we need to try to enjoy it and maneuver through it the best way that we can. We need to value what we have and do what we can to get more if that's what we really want. And sometimes you need to step back and just see how life is and is it where you want to go. Take a couple days off, see where you're thinking, and be careful of what's coming to you, especially during that time. A lot of people, when they're at a loss, especially a sudden loss, they can get scammed. There could be people who are coming to console you that actually don't want your best interest. But at the same time, you could see how many people really care. Some people come and ask how you're doing. Some of those people might just be nosy, but at the same time, there's some people where you might be surprised that they're like, oh wow, they're here to support you. I had an episode about hidden cheerleaders back in season 1 or early season 2 where there's always people who are rooting for you. Whether you don't really notice it now, you'll always notice it when there's a breakthrough or when you fall down. These people will be there to remind you that it's time for you to keep going, or you're tougher than this, or you could keep going and I believe in you. And it can open up doors. Sometimes we forget about people, as mean as that sounds, as weird as that sounds. We have work, we have our direct family, we have our coworkers, we have the stress of just living through life. And there's so many people who are active and inactive in our lives. Some people are very active, so those people are the people that we tend to communicate with the most, or just in general focus more on, right? Some people are upset when there's a gap or a space when you talk to someone, but that doesn't mean that person doesn't care about you. or they might not even know how to talk to you more. That's a thing that I think a lot of people have lost, especially because of how we communicate, how we live our lives, what we do with our time and our free time. Recently, I saw a post about someone asking about tracking their time online and everything like that. And there's actually built in things now that we do. They wanted something that was a little bit more intense, not knowing that with the basic stuff that we have, it can be pretty intense. But it's good to learn to separate yourself from things, especially social media, which is still crazy because I did talk to some people at work, and some people were panicking, and it was like, I think 45 minutes that it was down. And it sometimes it makes you feel like your world is going to crumble, right? But we were able to manage without all of this stuff. It's very addictive, and I think that flash of unexpected loss there made some people think, but it hooked some people on even more, right? I think I used a little bit of more social media today because of the lost time, but my main freak out at that point was that contacting family. And then I thought about all the stuff that I posted, all the time I invested, all the pictures, right? I have friends who've been hacked before, right? Sometimes it happens, not everybody's stupid who gets hacked. Things happen, right? But I don't know how I'd feel because I've posted so many images and everything, and it's on the cloud, right? That's what they say. They say it's on the cloud, and you want to be able to access all of that, but you want to keep all your space. Like my phone recently was talking about, oh, you only have 20 gigs left, right? And before, phones didn't have even 20 gigs, right? A terabyte of information. The drives, it was over $1,000. We could keep every single moment of our lives. How our phones and different types of technology is expanding. So it makes you really think, especially when you have unexpected loss, how much of the things that I have or that I'm holding actually matter, right? I've talked to you guys about a friend of mine that does the whole van life thing, and they have their own experience, and they don't have that many things with them, but they seem to be enjoying life, right? We were able to enjoy life without all of these things. When I think about how hard it took me to get to this point in my life, sometimes I wonder if I was happier with less. But here we are. And it doesn't matter if you wonder. The what if doesn't really matter. You're in the reality of now. And the only thing that you could really do is move forward. And that's your choice. I posted a very cryptic video about if I was to disappear. And it wasn't me quoting it, it's from a movie where it's like, oh, if I disappear, nobody would care, right? A lot of people feel that way, but at the same time, it's true and it's not true at the same time. We all hold a special place in other people's hearts, right? Even if we don't realize it. I was talking to a friend today about the concept of self and how people view themselves at times, right? Like sometimes you'll look in the mirror and you're like, oh, do I really look like that? Because you have your concept of how you look all the time, right? You might not notice that you've gained weight. You might not notice that you look scruffy. You might not notice like a blemish on your cheek or whatever. It depends how often you're looking in the mirror, right? But even then, sometimes you'll be with people all the time and then you see a friend. Like recently, I've been bulking, it is still winter. We bulk, human beings, mammals, all wildlife get a little bit bigger in the wintertime, especially if it does get cold. And my one friend's like, oh, you gained weight. right? And the funny thing is, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had a friend who came back from another country and he was like, "Oh wow, you've lost weight." Right? So I'm looking at myself, I'm like, which one of my friends are blind because I can't be both, or did I really gain that much weight in the 3 weeks? It's pretty crazy when you think about it, but some people have less of that self actualization in the sense where they know the concept of themselves, but they don't realize how different they are. It's similar to driving a car and switching to different cars, and they have different builds and shapes and sizes, right? So if you're used to driving small cars and you drive a bigger car, it feels weird to turn, right? Like that's why you need a truck license, because the amount of space that it takes up is completely different than a regular car. And sometimes we lose ourselves in ourselves because we have the thought of ourselves, not realizing that a thought of ourselves isn't always how we are or how we're perceived, right? I have a coworker who says that I could be very scary, and it's funny because at times I'm like, oh, that's ridiculous, and then at other times I'm like, yeah, I guess I could be a scary guy, or I could be intimidating. Because I was even talking to a friend today again, where I was talking about just messing with people. But when you're in a position of power, it does put people in a little bit of a frenzy, right? So you need to be careful, and you have to remember, like, because it's back to what I was saying, the self image or self actualization, where it's like, oh, I'm just me, but like in other people's eyes, I'm this or that, right? I was talking also about us getting older and how it's strange when someone approaches me and calls me sir, right? Sir, excuse me, I'm me, right? But they'll call you sir or Mr., right? Just because you are older, you look older, you are older. But sometimes you're with older people and you're like, oh, I'm not that old, so they are more adult than we are. But once you're past a certain age, we're all adults, especially in the eyes of children, teenagers as well. So it's the loss of youth to an extent. Even though you feel like it, there's a difference between, hey, you want to go play, from to adults to like someone who's younger. It's going to be creepy because you're not there anymore, right? We have to go through these motions in life, and not everything is going to be planned. Not everything is going to go as planned, and we need to be able to bounce back from unexpected loss, because unexpected loss is something that we could add to our equation of what we deal with in life, but we don't know how we will be at the time of that loss. So it's good to mentally prepare yourself, but at the same time, it might be useless. Kind of how a nihilist sees life, where does any of this really matter? Right? Even if any of this doesn't matter, we need to make the best of it, right? If life doesn't matter and you don't want to just end it, then why not try to do something that makes it feel worth it, so that you can keep going? Or even as you keep going, you could spread that hope, that positivity, that light to other people, where it does feel like it's worth it. It does feel like there's a meaning. It does feel like there's a purpose, if that's your mindset, right? In general, life has never been easy from the history that we see, right? Some people say, oh, stuff's hidden, blah, blah, blah. That's if we go into sea theories. Let me know if you guys want to see a sea theory episode. Even in general, if you guys could leave some comments, that'd be great, just so I could figure out a direction, or more of a direction. But going back to the topic, in general, life has never been easy. Some people say life is easier than it ever has been, right? We can't prove that, but from what we could see, it seems to be true, right? But if life was never easy, what do we as humans try to do? We try our best to make it as easy as possible, as enjoy enjoyful is not a word. I was gonna put I was gonna say enjoyful. I'm keeping that. I'm not even cutting this. Right? You want to have a joyous life. You want to have a happy life, right? When you start thinking hard about some things, it could put you in a spiral of depression. But that doesn't even have to be necessary as well, because you could be sad about it, but what is your sadness going to do, unless sadness is something that pushes you to do more, right? Like I talk about other episodes, like when I'm angry, when I'm fed up, my mind goes into a clarity that I need to hone in on a lot more. But I have to find a way not to get angry, because when I get angry, there's a lot of different side effects to it. And ultimately, I don't think it's worth it. But how can I get that creative energy of anger without the downsides? Either way, life could always be better, but at the same time, life could always be worse. What we need to do is make sure that we have ways to cope with the lower sides of life to get us back on track. And sometimes that's just taking a day off from work. Sometimes that's quitting your job and going towards your passion with a plan. You have to always have a plan. Sometimes that's starting a podcast and talking to nothing just to get your thoughts out. A lot of people do different things to get themselves in a mood or in a way where they can be more constructive. Unfortunately, with how society is, we have unlimited a lot of things that are not really good. You know, you could go to some places where drinks are only X amount of time, or a price for a amount of time. I'm not cutting that one either. Right? Or you could go somewhere where it's all you could eat from point A to point B. Or, you know, if you have internet and good internet, if you're in the side of the world where you have that opportunity, you could binge watch TV shows and just be sad in your bed all day and not talk to anybody. You could indulge all of these things to hide the pain of unexpected loss or other things that are bothering you in life. But we need to deal with our problems instead of just using something to pad them over. You can't progress if you keep running into the same problems. You need to deal with the problems, because if you don't, you run into them time and time again. But what happens when you pass that goal? When you deal with that problem? Sometimes you'll have a problem, you'll leave it there, and when you fix your problem, you might be stuck in the same spot because you realize that you never really wanted to get out of whatever you're dealing with. And that's a weird reality to run into. But what can we do but move forward? Because if we don't move forward, someone else or something else is going to push us. Whether it's our family, whether it's your friends, whether it's your job, whether it's the people who are living around you. Let's say you have nothing, none of that stuff. You have no friends, you have no family. You're not living in a house, whatever. The environment's going to move you. Time is going to move you. You're only getting older. And as you age, there's only so much more that you could do. There's a lot of people that I ran into. Can't say that I know all of them, but you get an unexpected loss. And being a person who was somewhat of an athlete at a time, you know, when you lose the ability to beat your records, where your records are now a thing in the past, it's still an unexpected loss. You want to try to gain where you were or surpass it, but time has already done its damage and you can't get there. So what do? Do you sulk on it? Do you just reminisce in the past? I had a friend tell me a story about he knew someone who dated someone, and the person was showing their past accomplishments on a date, which is super strange. And then after, when the person got bored with that, they were showing them their highlights and other stuff that they were working on. The person was very egotistical, but it's weird to be broadcasting that, especially at a first date or even like a second date. But I guess at least you're getting your message out there. We need to discover what we want to do and move towards it. It doesn't really matter how fast we're going, but I do like this quote, and every once in a while I post it because it helps me remind myself that there's a lot of stuff that I want to do. And I'm going to end the episode with that quote where it says that the longer you wait to achieve your goals, set your goals, get to where you want to be, the less time you have to spend enjoying that part of your life. So we need to make sure that we take our dreams, our goals seriously, get there, and enjoy it. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Take care.